Shalom. This week's Sedra is Sedra Balak. In order to explain Sedra Balak, I'd like to tell a story. Story is about George. George looked across the hotel plaza at his potential partner. George was still trying to decide if his potential partner, Michael, was interested in helping people or in the honor that would come from the project they were planning. George decided that he could judge Michael better if they would study together at the kotel. George felt that studying Torah at the kotel brought out honesty in people, and he hoped to see a flash of who Michael really was while studying at the kotel. George decided that they'd study this week's Sedra. In this week's Sedra, we find King Balak looking to defeat the Jewish people through a curse by an evil prophet named Balaam. Balaam would hire out his services to the highest bidder. He sent messengers to hire Balaam, who then refused their entreaties. As in stated in this week's Sedra, and pardon me for reading and looking away, when Balaam arose in the morning, he said to Balak's nobles, "Return to your country, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." Ostensibly, at least from where Balak's messengers were standing, Balak was turning down the offer because God had told him not to accept it. In his commentary to this verse, Rashi points out that the use of a few words tells a completely different story than what we assumed was happening. Rashi explained that when Balak stated that God had refused to let them go, and the words were "with you," he was hinting that God would allow him to go, but only with greater nobles than you. This shows us that he was conceited, Rashi says, and unwilling to reveal that he was actually under the control. It was an incredibly arrogant manner in which he spoke. Therefore, later God recorded that Balak continued to send dignitaries to entreat Balak, assuming, when saying "I can't go with you," that he could go with somebody else as long as those future messengers were of greater stature. Arrogance is actually one of the worst traits that man can possess. As Maimonides wrote, and excuse me for reading again, if a man is just humble, he is not. Rather, he must hold himself lowly and his spirit very unassuming. That is why Hashem describes our teacher Moshe as very humble and not simply humble. Therefore, our sages directed that a person should hold themselves very, very low. Also, they declared that whoever is arrogant is as if he denies God's presence, as implied by the pasuk that says, "And your heart will be haughty, and you will forget God your Lord," drawing a connection between arrogance and forgetting Hashem. Furthermore, they said, whoever is arrogant should be placed under a ban of ostracism, cherem. This applies even if he was only somewhat arrogant. Arrogance is a trait that prevents proper growth. But not only does it prevent proper growth, it causes a person to sin. As we saw, it causes a person to forget God. In their pride, they mistakenly think that they know best. Their arrogance causes them to err in action and in thought. Those errors were even apparent in Balaam's speech and the words he chose. Error is only part of the danger that arrogance causes. While studying together, Michael expressed his opinion about various different psukim. George knew that arrogance or manipulative mind would slip with a word here or there, as it did with Balaam in the way he addressed Balak's dignitaries, and then a person would show their true colors. Yet Michael clearly was pure. George felt he could trust Michael and decided to go ahead with their partnership and the great project that they were planning. It's an amazing lesson, one that I hope that we'll take home with us this Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.